doing to market your business is the right thing to do. If this is the right way to promote your business. So you're putting your content out on social media, you're blogging, maybe you're doing email or video. And as you think about it, you wonder if you're doing it right or if you're doing it wrong. And I ask this question because I hear this from my own audience, from my customers, from my membership, the people in my membership all the time. They're like, but am I doing it right? Or am I doing it wrong? How am I supposed to know? Hello, Dr. Elo. Thank you so much for joining me. Great to have you here. And tell me, do you ever wonder this? Is this a question that you ask? Am I doing it right? And I believe, so first of all, I think this all the time. Absolutely. I'm putting out a specific message and I'm like, is this the right message? But we can also look at it bigger. Am I on the right channels? Am I using the right methods? And underneath this question of am I doing it right or the opposite, am I doing it wrong, there's a second, there are two questions that I think really actually lie there. It's not whether or not we're doing it right, it's will it work? Will it build my business? Will it do the thing I need it to do, which is help me find clients? And we also think this second question is, what are people going to think of me because I'm doing this or because of the message I'm putting out. Hello, Lucille. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Is this a question that you ask yourself? Am I doing it right when I'm doing my marketing, or am I doing it wrong? And is this going to work? These questions can really get in the way of us marketing because they hold us back. They prevent us from leaning into our messages and committing to what we're trying to say. I think they make it harder. And so I want to get into this today, and really what we're talking about are two specific goals in our marketing that we're doing when we're marketing ourselves that I really want to help create a little more openness for us. And that is using our marketing to grow our businesses, leaning into it and getting more customers and putting ourselves out there in a way that will help us connect with our customers and create more income. But the other side of this, everything today is two-sided. The other side is we want to feel good about our business. We want to feel confident. We want to feel like we are putting something out in the world that is helping, and we want to be able to feel positive about it and good about ourselves and what we're saying. So this is where we're going today. Hey, Robert. Robert says, great questions. I also look at the content and the message appropriate for the audience we seek. Yeah, that absolutely is part of the question. Am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Am I using the right channels? Am I in the right place? So this is what I want to get into today. I'm really glad to know that this is resonating because and I'm not completely surprised. I have to say this. I hear this from my clients. I hear this from my members. They're like, this is what I did. Is that right? Well, let's talk about whether or not it's right and how we can tell, because there are specific ways to tell if it's right and specific ways to not tell if it's right that we tend to look at. So I want to get really clear about what we're trying to do here. The very first thing, though, that I want to lead with when it comes to marketing our businesses is there is no such thing as one and done. And it's not just that you can't do a marketing thing once and then it's going to market your business forever, but because, let's say you create a lead magnet. Now you've got to put it out in the world over and over. You've got to distribute it. You've got to keep getting things in front of people. So there's no one and done in that perspective, but also doing something once is not going to tell you if it's working. It's only going to tell you how that first time went. And that first time is only the first time. And I'm going to get into that a little bit in a minute as well about how to deal or how to think about that first time. But one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because I've made some big changes to my marketing. And the thing with marketing is we can make little shifts. I'm going to change my voice, or I'm going to show up a little differently, or maybe I'll post 3 times instead of 2, little tiny shifts. Maybe I'll email my audience twice this week instead of once, tiny little shifts. Or sometimes we make big shifts, and I've made some big changes in my marketing. So today I'm talking on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, look what tech is doing for me, but trying on some new things, which, yeah, there's that voice in the back of my head. I'm like, is this going to work? Is the tech going to work? Is one of my questions. And it seems to be working. So thank you for talking to me. I appreciate that, to tell me that I am getting out into the internet there. But it's also a question of, is it going to work for me internally? Is this something that I feel like I can do? on repeat because it's not a one and done. Hey, Lisa, it's great to have you here. Lisa lives like a mile from me. That's awesome. So fantastic. Thank you everyone for talking to me and letting me know that you're here. If you have questions or if you have something about your marketing experience, please share it in the comments. I do see these live videos as a mutual conversation where we can talk back and forth. That's the joy of the technology. And so I'm here to have this conversation with you, not talk at you. And so I'm thrilled that you're talking to me. So here are some things, it's kind of a list, but here are some things that I'm learning for myself and sometimes relearning as I'm walking through these big shifts and changes. And the changes, like I said, I'm adding some different social media channels, or in the case of YouTube, YouTube's not a social media. YouTube is a search engine. But I'm also shifting my schedule. I've gone live on Mondays on Facebook for 3 years. And I'm like, you know what? That's not going to work. I need to move it to Thursday because on Monday I'm doing pre-recorded videos, lots of information you don't know, but that you don't need to know. But this big shifting, like shifts in your head, right? I started thinking about these changes like 2-3 months ago, and it's taken that long to get my head around how I'm making these changes in my marketing, which is really, really crazy. To take that long when, as I look at it 2 months back, I'm like, well, the changes weren't big in terms of like logistically, but you got to get your head around how am I showing up? What does this mean for my schedule? What does this mean for my processes? And processes is a big piece of our marketing. We can't just do it on the fly if we want long-term results. We have to do it consistently according to a process, a repeatable process, because it's in that repeatable process that we can see what is and isn't working and make intentional changes. In the end, it's about science, right? If you've taken any science classes at all, you know about things like control groups and making very small changes so that you can see what is and is not working. But sometimes we need to just flip it on its head, and that's what I've done here, which has been interesting. So here are some things that I'm wanting to bring to you today that's going to help. Yeah, strategy takes time, Lucille. It does. It does. It sounds easy, but wait, what does that actually look like in the details? So here are some of the things that I'm learning along the way. Definitely continue to give me your feedback and your thoughts. This is great. So first and foremost, the big question: how do you know if it's working? How do you know? And it's funny because when I hear this from my clients or my members, it tends to come out, I don't feel like it's working. Okay, you might not feel like it's working, but how do you know if it's working? And the answer is that you have to look at the data, which is why doing something once isn't going to help you, because one data point is not data. It's just the first data point. You need a bunch of data. And what data you need to look at depends on the channel. All right, I think I'm going to speak to the, I think this is me singing to the choir, speaking to the choir in this case, but I'm going to say this out loud. Social media followers are vanity metrics and don't matter. You do need some followers, but who do you need? You need the right followers, right? Similar with email, the number of people on your list is a vanity metric. You don't need numbers, you need the right numbers. You need the right people on your email list. So to look at data, for instance, in social media, to know if it's working, the data you want to look at is the action that your followers and non-followers are taking. Are people liking? Are they commenting? Are they talking to you through DMs? Right? Those are the details. What kind of engagement you're getting is what's going to tell you whether or not it's working. Similarly with email, right? The number of people on my list that I'm messaging to is one thing, but are they responding? Are they opening the email? Are they clicking? And they might open the email but never click. So it's kind of working. But when they start to click on the thing I've given them to click on, and in order to get them to click, you do need to give them something to click on. It's funny. It's funny. There's some obviousness in there, but still, we'll look at click rates with some of my clients, and there'll be no click rates, but we didn't give them anything to click on. So that would be why, right? So we need to put something out there to get the data, and that putting ourselves out there and the putting the message out there is often the hardest part, because we're emotionally, what do people think? What will they do? But until we do it, we're not going to know. We can't make any guesses. We have to give them something to engage with. We have to give them something to take action on, and then look at the data and say, is this or is this not working? So looking at the data to know if something's working is the thing that I just want to hand you and remind you of. Even if you know this, let's bring that to the front of our brains, because it's really easy to be like, oh, it feels like it's not working. And until you look at the data, you don't know. Side point here, what kind of numbers? I hear this all the time. People are like, but what are the numbers I need to be comparing them to? The answer is your own. What's going on out in the world in the industry data, it's a data point, but it's not the most important data point. If you want your email to be doing better, you make changes, then you compare it to the email data you had before. You want your social media to be doing better, you do some different things and you compare it to the data you had before. And that is a really important element, is that question of what is working for you is what matters more than what's working out in the world. Hello, Ellie. Thank you for saying hi. And I'm like looking around because I've got like all this new tech today. And I'm like, oh, what am I learning? So I'm thrilled to have you all here. Let me know if this is resonating with you. Give me a big yes when it comes to are you feeling the data? And if you're like my clients and sometimes even me, and I'm like, oh, but it doesn't feel like it's working. If it doesn't feel like it's working, we're talking about fear. We're talking about our emotional concern, or we might even be talking about the emotional labor it took to execute. And I say that because how it feels does matter from a can you continue to execute this standpoint. The marketing we do needs to be sustainable. I said before, it's not a one and done. We have to do it over and over. Whether you're doing it on a weekly basis or setting yourself up for a month at a time, it is something that we have to do over and over and over. So it might look good in data, but is it feeling good also does matter. And you have options. If it doesn't feel good, that doesn't mean stop. It means how else can I do this so that I'm not emotionally getting in my own way in order to continue to connect with my audience? Because the whole goal of our marketing is to connect with our audience, right? But in order to do that, we have to continue to execute over and over. I'm not in any way saying what we feel doesn't matter. It does matter, but that's not the data. What matters when it comes to how we feel is, can we continue to execute? And if that's getting in the way, what are our other options? Lucille says, yes, this is resonating. Lisa says, yes, fantastic. So when I talk about shifting into a new marketing strategy like I just have, there's something I wanted to bring to you. And this was like truly the meat of what I was hoping to talk about today, is back a very long time ago. I'm going to say this out loud, more than 25 years ago, which actually probably way more than that. I worked for Hewlett Packard, and I worked for a person, his name, my boss's name was Ed No. He's on LinkedIn. I've connected with him, which is really cool. But he said something to me once, and he said it kind of like on the fly as he was going by, but it really resonated, and I want to bring this to you. When we try something new, right, we've already talked about data points, that first data point. This is where I said I was going to get back to this. When we try something new, trying something new once doesn't count. That's just the beginning of trying it. We need to try something, and I'm going to use this number loosely. We need to try something 3 times. We need to learn it, and then we need to do it, and then we need to make it our own. Now, it might, depending on the complexity of the thing, take more than 3 tries to actually do it and actually make it our own. And so we want to hold that number, more in phases. Phase 1, figure out how to do it. Phase 2, execute, get that system down, get systems in place, get it figured out. And then 3, make the changes that really up-level it and make it your own, bringing in your own voice, your own style. And so when it comes to shifting your marketing and doing the things that make sense for you and your business, you hope, doing something once just to see isn't going to cut it. You have to do something 3 times minimum, or across a span of time. And the span of time I usually work with in this 1, 2, 3 time frame would be 3 months. So maybe, especially when it comes to technology and marketing, you take a month to just figure it out, get things in place, get systems understood. 2nd, to execute on that, and the 3rd month to fix it. And so at that 3-month point, you're like, okay, is this working? Let's look at 3 months of data. How is this working in terms of systems and whether or not I'm feeling better about it? If you're thinking about getting into video, this 3 months is the minimum amount of time. Email marketing, honestly, 6 months, minimum amount of time, because you need that kind of data. You need to build a list. You need to get systems in place. There's so much to do. So the level of complexity expands upon how much time these 3 phases go. But if you're like, oh, I think I might post on Facebook or post on Instagram for a period of time, 3 months will totally work. email marketing, gosh, minimum of 6 months. Good morning, Floyd from Colorado. I love that you're in Colorado Springs. I used to live there a long time ago. Phase 2, figure it out again, Ellie says. Figure it out again. Maybe there's some movement back and forth as you're making changes and making it your own and figuring out how something works. I think that that's perfectly fair. And, Ellie just launched a program. Launching, the first time you ever launch any program is going to be, there's so much complexity there. You're just figuring it out. I think the first 3 launches are just figuring it out and making changes and things like that. You're not even starting to make it to your own until you're into the 4 to 6 launches window, right? So that's not even 3 months because you're launching across years, right? So there's a really complex system, Ellie, that takes time. And so in addition to holding the whole system loosely, we have to be gentle with ourselves. There's so much of our own emotion and belief systems and thoughts about ourselves and our capability of doing something that goes into that we have to really hold gently and with compassion. Something like live streaming, something like a month-long strategy of marketing, something like launching. Things get bigger and more complex, and we just have to hold them loosely with compassion for ourselves and our ability to execute over time. I've been talking about how long you institute change and that 3 months or 6 months or years long thing. And I talked before about marketing not being one and done. Here's the thing, and I don't think people talk about this as much. We're going to be marketing as long as we own our business. And so marketing is not a short-term, quick fix, do it once and you're done kind of thing. It is the long game. And whenever I think about marketing being the long game, I think about Simon Sinek, who has a book about the infinite game. There's the win-lose game and then the infinite game. And the difference here is the win-lose game is I'm doing better, they're doing worse, or I'm losing. You win, there's an end to the game. If we think about football or soccer or baseball, there's an end to the game. The infinite game is ongoing, and you win when you're still in the game. You're just in the game at all. That is winning, and you're just always playing. And when it comes to marketing, it is an infinite game. As long as your business is open, you are marketing. So it's important, therefore, that we do some of these things to help us just do as well as we can, looking at the data, be organized about it, and put systems in place and track data. Don't just look at it, track it, and be compassionate with ourselves, our businesses, and how we're going about doing all of these things, because it takes time, and it takes learning, and it takes processes and paying attention to what matters and not paying attention to what doesn't matter. And that distinction, I hope we've gotten into today. I really hope this has been helpful to you. This is the kind of stuff that I'm going to be talking about going forward. If you have any questions, if you have any topics that you're hoping that we can talk about in the coming months and years that will be here, please let me know, because I want to talk with you about the things that matter to you when it comes to your business, when it comes to your marketing. I specialize in working with people who are introverts and ambiverts, and I will be talking about that more in the coming weeks. But if you have any questions that you're hoping that we can talk about here, I invite you to put them in the comments or to send me a message to let me know, because I want to bring you content that matters and will make a difference for you. I'm going to be live here every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And wherever you're watching from, I do invite you to follow me and like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And let's stay in touch. I want to continue to serve you. Floyd says, forgiveness is one I use a lot on myself for marketing. Floyd, there's some deepness there. Let's go there for a second, because if you forgive yourself, then you're assuming you're doing something wrong. And I want to tell you, Floyd, if you're showing up, you're doing something right. And then it's just about doing it more right, but being there at all. And I hear you, and I love that compassionate forgiveness, but I hope that you're not holding yourself down or punishing yourself in order to have to forgive yourself, because it takes work, and there's no perfect in marketing. There's just more right, a little bit less right, and the only thing that can tell us whether or not it's working is the data. So I'm glad that you're holding yourself in forgiveness, but I really, really hope that you're also just holding yourself with compassion and knowing that you're doing it at all is the right thing. And there's nothing to forgive. So Dr. Elo says you like seeing me on LinkedIn. I'm loving the LinkedIn, I think. I think this is going to be a place that's definitely going to stick around. I'm also liking this multi-streaming system here where I'm actually in 3 places at once, which is very, very cool because I've got people talking to me from Facebook and YouTube as well as LinkedIn. So thank you for being here today. I am excited to be talking with you, as is Hunter, who you're seeing walking around. And I will see you again next Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, right here, wherever you see me now. Keeping at it, step by step, celebrate the small wins. Ellie, the small wins all collect to lead to the big wins. I'm 100% with you on that. I hope you're celebrating wins, everyone. I will see you again next week. Take care.